Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kieran and this channel is now called Thrifted Living. Depending on when you started watching my videos, you might have seen the channel have several different names. This is now Thrifted Living. Before it was my name, which is Kieran McKenzie. And on this channel, I've shared a variety of topics over the years. And I want to say I've been on YouTube since like 2015 or 2016. I can't remember actually, but over the past several years, I started opening up about my mental health and I started talking about my struggle with severe obsessive compulsive disorder. And over the years, I've talked about it and it was a really big deal for me to share with you what I was struggling with, because part of my issue that I had with it is that I thought that I couldn't talk about it. And so doing that really helped me learn more about myself and share with the world, what I was struggling with and help others in that process by hearing other people's stories and just providing support where I could. And all along, the obsessive compulsive disorder diagnosis didn't seem to fit quite right. It definitely was a big part of what I've been struggling with, but it didn't seem like the full picture. And I always struggled with that because I was feeling so much more that the obsessive compulsive disorder didn't cover in terms of like what I was struggling with. And so I want to talk with you guys today about an additional diagnosis that is still pending, but I want to share with you sort of like this new chapter in my mental health journey that I've been learning about for, I want to say, about 9 months or so. And so I just want to get into the video and just share with you what's been going on and what this additional likely diagnosis is and sort of what I've been doing to work through it. In the winter of this past year, so I want to say it was like January or February of 2023, I got really sick. I will go more into the story of how I came upon this diagnosis maybe in a separate video because it's a little bit more detailed. But I got really, really sick and I ended up working with my psychiatrist again. I've been working with him this entire time, but I ended up meeting with him more specifically about what was going on in sort of like an emergency type situation. And I ended up receiving a likely diagnosis of bipolar disorder. So in addition to the obsessive compulsive disorder, I also have a likely bipolar disorder diagnosis as well. And that really, upon learning about that diagnosis and really starting to understand it more, that really felt like another piece of the puzzle was being solved, because there was such a large mood component to what I was struggling with. I would have really big mood swings. I would have times when I wasn't able to control my emotions, like uncontrollably crying, laughing to tears quite frequently, and periods of depression and periods of mania. Upon learning about this diagnosis and after I got really, really sick, my psychiatrist informed me that bipolar can be difficult to diagnose because people will often go to the doctor or seek help from their doctor when they are in a depressed state. And when you're in a manic state, you feel good, like you feel like up, I guess you could say. And often people won't seek help at that time because they're feeling what they think is good. I definitely had, leading up to when I ended up getting really, really sick and needing to have like this emergency type meeting with my psychiatrist and with my like counselor and everything, I was definitely in a manic episode. And I've experienced manic episodes for many years, but I had never really, I was never really able to identify it. And this one felt different. This was a a very different experience. And that's a whole story in and of itself that I want to tell you guys because I think it's important to talk about it. And it was scary. Honestly, it was really scary. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't making sense. I was talking about just random stuff that doesn't make any sense. And seeing that now has been really, really helpful. Seeing the difference that I can feel medicated has been really helpful. And that's another part of this, is that when I got really sick, my psychiatrist suggested that I try a mood stabilizer to help me and to help stabilize my mood. And I was really nervous to take it at first because I had just really gotten used to the medication that I'm taking for obsessive compulsive disorder. And I was nervous to start something new. And I started taking it, and the first thing I noticed was that it made me really sleepy. And after a while, I kind of got used to that. And once it like leveled out in my body, the difference is night and day. And I know I've shared with you guys in the past about how the difference between before I started taking medication for OCD and now was huge. Like, it was night and day. I was able to function. I was able to, prepare meals for myself. You guys know that was something, if you've been watching for a while, that was something I struggled a lot with for a long time. And I didn't realize how significant the mood component of bipolar disorder is, and how that wasn't the OCD. Because I know I've talked with you guys before about how before I started therapy and taking medication for OCD, I thought that I was the OCD. I thought that I was the person, and that was who I was. So it was this awful, like, tangled loop of me feeling bad about the way I was feeling, but also feeling like that's who I was. And so once the medication kind of took that away, a lot of the compulsions and obsessions, it was like it peeled off that layer, and then the bipolar was able to sort of like not take charge, but it was able to be seen more clearly for what it was. Because I've struggled with these manic and depressive episodes for as long as I can remember, but I didn't realize it was something different. I thought it was who I was, and that I wasn't able to deal with things in the right way. I wasn't able to understand life in the right way, if that makes sense. And so it was like medication for OCD sort of took that part of the equation away, and like then bipolar was like the big thing on display. And I am so grateful that I'm not grateful that I got sick. I don't mean to say that, but I'm grateful that I was able to have that moment of, okay, there is something else going on here. And I'm so, so grateful for Sean's help and for my family's help to help me get through the really tough time. And I just never thought that, I don't know, it never made sense to me before, until you can peel away those other, like, issues, I guess you could say. It's so hard to identify it. Like, I feel like I'm really starting to learn who I am. I feel like I'm getting to know myself for who I am for the very first time, because now I'm seeing what Kieran is like without the OCD, and now what Kieran is like without the bipolar disorder. And that's the interesting thing. I know I am who I am, and I know that even with medication, I still struggle with OCD and bipolar disorder, but the medication has been able to help me like take everything apart and see. It's like there's a bunch of chairs or something in your way, and then the medication, it just pushes it all to the side so that you can go through without carrying all of this other stuff with you. And that's been life-changing, honestly. I'm so grateful that I was able to get the help that I needed when I needed it, and I had the support of my family and friends through all of it. It's interesting for me to go back and watch the videos that I've shared in the past on my vlog channel. Sorry, Finley wants to bark at me. On my vlog channel and on Thrifted Living, and see just how far I've come in terms of everything. But it's also really hard to watch the hard times. And I'm glad I documented it, because I'm really interested in seeing how I am now, and seeing like the other side of things, and how it got better. And so I'm grateful that I now have more control of my life. And like I said, the diagnosis is still pending. I am hopeful that I will have like a formal diagnosis soon. Not because I want to have a diagnosis, but because, like, for me, there is value in the diagnosis, even if it doesn't change anything. For me, in my mind, it's helpful to know the way I'm feeling isn't who I am. It's OCD and bipolar disorder, and learning how to function around those things is critical. And learning that they are not who I am, they're a separate thing, and I'm learning how to live my life with those things. Something interesting that I think my therapist told me, I can't remember if it was my therapist or the psychiatrist, is that certain things are triggered by trauma. And so your experience with these mental health disorders might be different depending on like your life experience, if that makes sense. And so I've also come to grips with trauma in my life, and I've really worked on talking about it and working through it, really coming face to face with it, if it makes sense, and trying to separate myself from it, which has been really, really helpful. I feel like each therapist I've worked with has had a very specific job, and the first therapist I worked with was like the first one to be like, okay, like this is this is OCD, it's not who you are. But I feel like she had so much work to do to really like get my mind in the I am not OCD, like it's a separate thing. And then my second therapist was like, okay, this is like how you have to start, like how can you function with this disorder? Like what is life like? How do you get through each day? And then this last therapist was like, let's deal with the trauma. And I'm only laughing because it was hard. It was really, really hard to do that. It was hard, but she made it easy, if that makes sense. Like, she was very even in her tone and in her communication, and I just felt like really, really great. And it's really interesting because I hadn't gone to therapy for a while because my one therapist left. I hadn't got a new therapist. And then a week before I got really sick, and I'll just call it the episode, a week before the episode that sort of started all of the discussion about bipolar disorder, I had not randomly, but I had started to feel kind of not good. And I was like, you know what? I really need to get back in with a therapist, even if it's just somebody I can like touch base with every once in a while. And I had met her a week before the episode, and then everything happened, and it just was sort of like, wow, like perfect timing that I was able to get back in with somebody. And I had barely even talked to her at all, but I think I texted her just like on a whim, and I was like, I don't feel good. And she was like, call me right now, or let me call you. And like just so responsive and so understanding, but also like really challenging at the same time. Like she was really like, she just asked a lot of questions and gave a lot of support, and I'm grateful for that. And it's scary to me to be, one, talking about bipolar disorder and my struggles with that, but two, also to be talking about trauma, because that's another whole layer, that's another whole thing that that can be part of your experience and can possibly trigger mental health conditions. So, and again, that's just my understanding. But also, like, the fact that I'm talking to you guys like this is, I would have never thought that I could have done this like 3 years ago. There's no way, like, no way that I could have said, I have OCD, I have bipolar disorder, I likely have bipolar disorder, and I have experienced trauma that has made things difficult. And it's scary. It's so scary. Like, saying it now, I'm kind of like, I get like a fire in my chest, like just bringing that up, but I know I'm not alone. Like, I know many people experience trauma, and trauma is different for everyone. What I might consider to be trauma, somebody else might not think is anything at all. And, and that's okay. But it's okay that I'm calling it my trauma. And that's been a huge moment for me to be able to say, you know what? Even if this isn't a big deal to you or to somebody else, it was traumatic for me and caused me to struggle with other things. And it's okay that I say that, I acknowledge that, and that I work through that, even if it might not seem like anything to somebody else. And that's been another huge thing too, for me to be able to say, to own my trauma, I guess, to own my experiences and to own my life, I guess. So I know this was a pretty heavy video, and I know I'm still saying it's a likely diagnosis. I don't want to, put anything out and share anything with people that is, I don't lie, if that makes sense. I want to tell the truth. It's been mind-opening, is that the right word? Eye-opening? I couldn't remember. It's been eye-opening and a really therapeutic process to understand how all of this relates. And one thing that, like, I really wish I could do is, I wish I could go back in time and meet people again. Does that make sense? I wish I could go back in time and meet people that knew me as me struggling with OCD and struggling with bipolar disorder. And I wish I could meet them as who I am now, if that makes sense, because I want them to know who I really am, and I want to see them for who they really are. But I just feel like it's hard for me to sometimes to think about, how hard it made everything, how hard it made relationships, how hard it made, just it's difficult for me to sometimes think about the impact that it's had on my life. And yeah, I want people to know me for who I am, because I'm learning who I am, and I think I'm pretty cool. So yeah, this is a big video. I'm scared. I don't know what I'm actually going to share and what I'm going to edit out. But I want to thank you guys so much for always being here, for always being supportive. If you were there for those first videos that I shared about everything, you probably will notice a difference. Those videos were highly edited. Those videos were, I was repeating myself multiple times. I couldn't, put a sentence together because of my mental health struggles. And now I'm sitting here just talking with you guys for 16 minutes, and talking about some really deep, vulnerable stuff. And I'm so proud of myself. It's been a journey, but I'm so proud, and I can't wait to keep on going and learning more about myself. And yeah, I'm just grateful. So if any of you are struggling with your mental health and are on a journey of your own, know that I'm with you, that I see you, and I'm proud of you for starting that journey. And there is no like final destination, in my opinion. You're always traveling to, it's just like you're on a constant road trip, I guess. But be proud of every step that you make. Be proud of everything that you learn. Be proud of who you are, and take time. You don't have to rush anything. And I'm here for you, and I understand, and I'm proud of you. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye.